Hey, welcome back, YouTube. Today we're going to talk about another one of our favorite subjects, silver, stacking precious metals, all that good stuff. Going to try to address a couple questions that people have had about the various coins that we've showed over the past couple months and videos, and just address some of my stacking planning agenda, why I stack and plan the way I do. Stay tuned. So hey everybody, good day. Thanks for checking in. Thanks for coming to the video. So our stacking silver goals and planning, kind of some of the agenda I look at a long time ago, back when we first got on here on the YouTube thing. I talked about diversity in silver and in my silver stack, and parts of that are all represented here, and I think diversity is very important. And I think there are 5 key parts. Five. I got 5 fingers, right? 5 key parts to that you see represented here. Not proportionally necessarily. We'll get into proportions next, but just as a representation. So first off, what I think is the cornerstone of any stack is your government-issued silver with what comes from a national mint. What we would call junk silver, or old coinage of the past. It's 90% silver, represented here. Generic silver, which we did our favorite generic video back a little ways ago. Check that out up in the cards if you haven't seen that. And numismatic or semi-numismatic coins, which have a place, I think, and we can discuss that as well. But first, let's talk about government-issued silver. So first, looking at our government-issued silver, and really what I would like to focus on is that would be the government-issued silver of the country you're in. Might be the best way to think of it. Most of you in the United States, so it'd be American Silver Eagles. That would be the cornerstone of this strategy, and really what you're looking at to get to have a very recognizable, easily liquidated form of silver. That's the thing that these eagles get you, is anybody involved that you wanted to go sell these to get cash out or trade. These are going to be easily determined as the real deal and not questioned, I guess you would say, for the most part, as long as everything looks on the up and up. And there are ways to test them, and any dealer is going to have a test method, and you just consider this the baseline to start everything else and build everything else you got around. Canada, they have the Maple Leaf, the Austrian Philharmonics, which we got a couple weeks ago, a couple of them. You can really build around this to make as a part of your government bullion. I would look at it like that, and I consolidate all those together. And when I look at my numbers, my Austrians, the Canadians, and these as all part of that. And I'm also looking at the Krugerrands. The Krugerrands had kind of missed my eye, and I'm looking at add those as part of that as well. Just a straight government bullion that is very recognized and easily liquidated. They're going to just be easy to move and easy to sell and easy to trade, I think. And that's got a lot of the advantages. And when I talk about the cornerstone, when I talk about planning, I just recently came across a channel that kind of put it in perspective about to set a goal for some of this planning, and I put that into my pie chart, which I developed for the other prepping that he needs as well. But for the purposes of silver, just setting a goal, even after all these years of accumulation and picking up piece by bit, it's like I really need to set, like, what's a good goal and what does my cornerstone need to look like. And so when I saw there's a channel called Shadow Stack was putting out there, he's like, your base government bullion in his eyes should be 500 ounces would be that would be your base. So, you know, I was like, okay, let's do that. Let's put that into the goal and see where we get. And you'll see in my chart that we show on here kind of where that puts us. And then I've added percentages to kind of how I want to have a balance between our diversity, which we'll talk about as we go through this. But if I have 500 ounces of government bullion, government issued bullion, that kind of lets me know where I need to go with and add as I move forward to set that plan. But adding government bullion as the baseline, I think, is the way to go, and that's kind of why I do that. Is this gives me a good foundation that can be liquidated in bad events or not. They do come with a higher premium up front than a lot of your other types, but it is the getting the stuff on the back end is just as important. So with that in mind, let's go to just as probably more recognizable form of silver, 90% constitutional silver. So constitutional 90% silver, as we did our video a couple weeks ago, our favorite type of constitutional silver, but as the purposes of planning as a percentage and portion of our stack and as our investment portfolio, if you want to put it that in those terms, I've just made it a little piece, but as a critical piece, because in the interim of any SHTF event or catastrophic, these are the most recognizable of all the coins, really. But they do have the value of silver added in there that you can maybe increase your bartering power depending on who you're dealing with and what you're doing. But I've accorded these, as you saw with the government issue, looking at about 45% as a part of a planning factor right now. That's what I'm looking at. And if I had 10% constitutional, that gives me 55%. So over half of my stack would be easily recognizable government issued, essentially silver. With 10% of that being constitutional. And you can see the numbers to work out if I ever reach my goal of what I'm looking to get as far as total ounces. And that's silver ounces, silver content, not the weight of the coins, because they're only 90%. So factoring in the 90% level, you're going to be carrying around a little bit more than, what are we looking at here? A little bit more than 112 ounces or so. So with the idea here being that government issued silver is going to be 55%, a real cornerstone, really American silver, essentially, but with some Canadian and Austrian added in there for the government side, bullion. But for the 9%, it's going to add up to that, and that's going to give me a good over half of my stack is easily recognizable by most people. It's not fringe, unrecognizable, unknown stuff. So that's really the thought behind getting those percentages in there. And now let's take a look at semi-numismatic. So semi-numismatic coins are really coins that have often changed, even though these are government issued, China and Australia. They're really high premium, unique items. They're produced in high volume, but not in extremely, they're not like American Eagles, they're pumping out millions a year usually. The changing designs makes them more collectible, so these change annually. Like you can see the two different styles of panda here, making them more of a collector's item that collectors like to pick up, and that just gives them a higher premium and a more potential investment for selling them at a higher price later as collectors demand a certain one more, or whatever the case may be. You know, it's more about like baseball cards or anything else that has collector's value, right? You can see this is still a constitutional silver piece, but as a certain style. Anything that's slabbed I consider to be semi-numismatic. At least it has a collector's value to it, and that's something you could look at too. Is when you get in the really high-end pieces of this, that's what you would call just straight numismatic value. They are high-end collector's items, but this is a just brilliant uncirculated Morgan, so it's semi-numismatic in my eyes, but that's just an example of how constitutional can get involved in the semi-numismatic side. But when you're any of these coins, these are enjoyable to buy. They come out annually, different ones. There's different versions of this. There's all kinds of other types out there that you could get involved in. Just the biggest thing is they cost more up front. You're going to pay higher than the price of silver above and beyond what you pay for eagles and other types of coins like that. So there is a higher cost, but with a potential higher reward. If you wanted to sell these in the short term, even while the price of silver is down, these are probably going to get you a little bit better than what you paid for, more than likely. And they always have the silver content to fall back on. Well, you'll lose the value of the premium, but you still have a baseline to go off of. So I'm looking at planning that these will consist about 25% of my stack. So that gives me a little bit of play on the marketability of the different type of coin and the numismatic value of any of these and others, and just gives me some of my stack that's liquid as well. People, when they get high demand for something they want to collect, these can go pretty quickly. So that's kind of the thought behind that, of having some of these, is you can increase your value, especially in a needed time where, in an emergency, a personal emergency, not a national or anything like that, but a personal deal. You may need some big money. These are going to bring in more money in those situations and add up faster in the cash department if needed. It really make sure you're looking for anything reputable that you're getting coins like this from, because these are the things that are going to be faked when you get into really high end, especially anything that's slabbed like that. Going to a local coin dealer or something trusted online is going to be the way to go. Don't think I would necessarily just get anything off the street, because that's when things get in this value, that's when things start getting faked and people start trying to really take advantage of people. So be aware of that. But this is just a piece of the pie in my diversity to try to take advantage of some of that collector value while still having silver. And you could apply that to gold coins like this as well. So some thoughts there. So finally, as a part of my stacking strategy, I have generic silver as well. And this is really just going after the pure base metal value of a coin, or just to have silver. Now you can get this in bars as well, and I do have some bars, some 10-ounce bars, which we've shown in the past, that just to give you ounces and ounces of silver purely on the value of the metal itself. And you can do that for gold, platinum, palladium, copper, anything. You can apply that if you wanted to. But the purpose in buying these rounds like this, it's kind of a cool way, like I talked about during my generic video, of having a bunch of different variety of designs, and really you're paying very few cents over spot, and it's really the cheapest silver you're going to get. But you do have some cool looking coins all in the same respects, right? But really this is just a play on the value of silver that's going to maintain that value of silver in perpetuity. And you're not going to get much back more than that, though. That's not a play on any collectability. You're not having any guaranteed government seal behind it, if you will, like you do with government coins. But you can always melt these down and do something else with them, too. That you're not going to be scared to toss these around or anything else. These are just silver. They could be slick, but they have stamps on them to let you know who did it, who made them. And the people that collect do know who Golden State Mint is, people like that. OPM metals here, Sunshine Mint. These people are all fairly well known, and they know that when these were made. And then there's books and books on the older generic silver that may have came out previously, like we talked about. And there's testing that can be done to verify if needed. But again, this is just to give you that base value of silver in your stack, and just add ounces, as they say. Just add ounces to the stack is what generic silver does. And that's what the 10-ounce bars, 5-ounce bars, or other bars or rounds like this, that's all that is to get more ounces. So you are hedged and you have that savings tucked back. Is the way. Again, like anything else, the forgeries that may be out there, make sure where you go get it, and that it's you can verify the source and how it's tested or whatever. So with that generic, you can see my percentage planning wise is to have 20% generic silver in my stack, 20% of it to be that. So that would put us, what are we looking at here? Just 240 some ounces, whatever, is the goal in the long term. If I get the rest of it to go with it, 270 some of the semi-numismatics, bringing some of those in. So with semi-numismatics, and then your constitutional silver, like I talked about, a good solid 10% that I want to have when worst comes to worst to have. But the real backstop is that government silver. That hedge is really the underpinning of everything in the whole stack and the whole investment portfolio, if you will, to bring value. And you could add a similar argument, or not argument's a bad word, similar plan, similar scheme to if you bought gold or anything else, and this kind of angle with diversity. You look at it, you need silver on the cheap, you need generic. If you need something that's going to increase in value quickly and maybe has more the value of silver in the far term, especially semi-numismatics, easily recognizable, easily taken by people, easily accepted, the government issued bullion and constitutional silver is going to be the way to go. And that's really the backpinning behind all of it and the strategy that I use. And those percentages, like I said, are kind of things that when I just thought about it, that would be kind of like the way I wanted to approach it. But again, that 500 ounce goal I got from Shadow Stack when he brought that up, and I think he's actually in Germany, and he's in the EU currently, maybe a Brit or something like that. But he had put it out there like that your base of your stack being 500 ounces up front is just as a good solid goal to start off with, and that it could take years to get that. But if you're a young person who's looking long-term investment planning and long-term savings out of this, you can't go wrong with that type of big goal. Aim big, and where you end up is where you end up. But using my diagrams and my pie charts here, I can keep on track and know, hey, you got off course the last couple of months because somebody had a sale on something, pick an item that was shiny and pretty and you liked, but that's not really part of the full stacking plan. We need to get back on track, and we can use this chart to help track that and get us back towards the goal. So just wanted to put that out there. Some people had asked some questions in previous videos, in particular if I had certain coins or whatever. It's like, hey, some things just aren't part of the plan. Some things just aren't going to meet the needs, if you know what I mean. So hope that helps somebody out. Hope that answers some questions, and I hope everybody just enjoys looking at silver shiny stuff. If it was gold shiny stuff, would be a whole lot happier, right? And that could always be, maybe in the future. But I don't have necessarily a plan for how to incorporate gold. Gold, I think, is very important, and just with the ratio the way it is now, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, even though it seems like the ratio is going to go over 100 to 1, which is just total insanity. So really haven't got really a good plan for gold because I don't have enough gold to put into the chart to see how it fits in. But with a 100 to 1 ratio possibly coming up, it seems like more of a time to get more silver. But we'll see how gold fits in the future, and just to have, because it is a much easier portable method of storing your wealth. And that's what it's all about. So YouTube, hope you found this useful and enjoy it. Comments below, please share. Questions, I'm sure somebody can answer it if I probably can't. All right, y'all have a good day. Live free.